I was fascinated by Don Cabaruca yesterday speaking at the SID World Congress about the end of the authoritarian pact, that democracy and growth he believes are going to be an important part of our future, as opposed to the deal that has been struck in the past, where if societies accept a certain level of oppression, that there'll be a high level of growth in return. And that he's basically saying that because what the Arab Spring is basically telling us is that agreement is becoming unwound. And so I think that's particularly interesting. I also found Bob Zoellick's comments about trade and growth to be particularly interesting. As somebody who had helped support trade deals in the United States, Bob Zoellick helped get the CAFTA deal done and helped set the stage for the Colombia Free Trade Agreement, which I hope gets passed. I hope the Panama Free Trade Agreement, I hope gets passed. That the fact that the Doha round may be dead is, which I think were the words he used, was particularly troubling, given that the times that we're in. That if trade and investment are really about empowering the private sector and supporting entrepreneurship and supporting economic growth, and if that's the engine of development, which I believe it is, that this is particularly troubling. Up until now, we've not seen in the Great Recession major pushback on protectionism, but we haven't seen further forward movement on trade, and so this is something that's the fact that someone as prominent as Bob Zoellick is saying this is something that troubles me. So on the one hand, some hope from Don Cabaruca about greater human freedom in the world, and perhaps some worry from Bob Zoellick about perhaps the lack of progress on trade that I was hoping to see. I'm hoping to see happen. So those were two things that I took away from yesterday. I also thought that the conversation that we had with President Kufuor and with Deputy Prime Minister Mudavadi, and along with Enrique Iglesias, was very interesting, talking about infrastructure, talking about thinking about how we development cooperation by other means other than traditional foreign assistance, that the future, especially when we think about middle-income countries or countries that are becoming middle-income countries, that it's about some technical assistance, it's about South-South cooperation, it's technology transfer, it's investment, it's not your grandfather's foreign aid anymore. So I think that was particularly interesting. So I also think that we're going to hear a lot today on the second day about Global South cooperation. It's about investment and it's about technology transfer. It's about some forms of soft aid and grants, but I think they were alluding to other forms of engagement, whether it's trade facilitation or investment or development finance instruments, like partial guarantees, equity investments, debt financing. And I think that both here in the United States and elsewhere is an important part of the development future, and I think that's been alluded to here in the Congress. Here at the Congress, the future of aid could look like trade facilitation, investment. It's also going to look like varieties of technology transfer. There was, for instance, Deputy Prime Minister Mudavadi is from Kenya, where M-Pesa, which is one of the big technology breakthroughs, where it allows for cell phones to send money to each other. So this all has a powerful implication around remittances, around security, around business transactions. This is now being transferred to other countries, such as Afghanistan. So you're seeing technologies developed in the Global South going to other parts of the Global South and having all sorts of implications for development in a positive, constructive way. So I think a lot of the future development is going to be it's about private enterprise between Global South actors, it's around triangular cooperation, it's around investment, and it's around supporting the enabling environment for private investment. And it's also throughout the Congress we've talked about good governance, and it's about transparency, it's about accountability, about governments delivering the goods to their society, and hopefully democratic governments that are delivering the goods to the society. The World Congress is a moment for us to think about the fact that we've made tremendous progress over the last 50 years. We're a wealthier set of societies, we're a freer set of societies, more empowered societies through technology and through breakthroughs in human rights over many years. And so that's the good news. The bad news is over the short to medium term, we've got a very difficult time here in terms of various countries are in recession. There's concerns about further reforms on trade and investment. So these are things that are holding us back from further gains. and further opportunities at this. And there are also other glimmers of hope. I think the Arab Spring is an incredibly hopeful opportunity, and we're talking about this at the World Congress. I think Global South engagement of trade and investment and cooperation is a very hopeful part of the development picture. And private enterprise is here. A number of companies are here, philanthropy is here. A lot of the aid architecture is much more complicated than 50 years ago, and so I think the SID World Congress also allows us to think about these very complex set of actors that are getting more and more complex over time. And so it's convening these various actors together to collectively learn from each other and to help us think more collectively about what the development future looks like. At SID Washington, the chapter is the neutral learning community for the development community here in Washington. We have 185 institutional members, 1,200 individual members. It's a place where all the various sectors, academia, the consulting community, the NGO community, the bilateral community, the philanthropy, the private sector, can come together and learn on any number of different topics. And I think there's been an incredible amount of rich material to take from the World Congress on Global South cooperation, on technology transfer, on trade and investment, thinking about the future of middle-income countries. What does cooperation look like with middle-income countries without foreign aid? Because I think that's where we're going. We're not going to be, I think with this environment here in Washington, I think the 10-year bull market on official development assistance is over. And a number of the conflicts within the community have been papered over because we've slowly increased foreign assistance over the last 10 years. It's never enough, I think, for the development community, but I think we're looking at very best, it's going to be flat, but I think more realistically, we're looking at a 10, 15, maybe a 20% cut in what we've seen over the last several years. I think the path of least resistance politically and least unpalatable, if you will, within the development community is going to be cutting traditional foreign assistance to middle-income countries. And so the way we think about cooperation with middle-income countries is not going to be with traditional foreign assistance or through traditional aid, a traditional aid lens. And so I think this conversation has been talked about here in the World Congress, and SID Washington is going to take the lessons and the conversations here and deepen them here over the coming year at SID Washington. I think what we offer, as I said, is a neutral learning community for the development ecosystem. If you want to learn, okay, right, SID Washington is the neutral learning community for the development ecosystem. And if you want to benefit from the learnings of your peers, but if you want to also contribute to the state of the art, you have something to share with the larger community, this is a place to share it in a neutral way that also helps. Most people that get into development want to see a better world, and so this is a way for you to practically participate in making the world a better place by sharing knowledge, learning from others, improving the state of practice of what you're doing, but also sharing with others, influencing others with what you're doing and what you're learning, and positioning yourself competitively as both a peer but also as an innovator. There are opportunities for you as an organization to benefit as well as to share.
Perfect. Almost the exact same answer. I'd love to hear it say for young professionals, they're thinking
right.
This is a place for job seekers,
right.
people early in their career. SID Washington chapter is
right. The SID Washington chapter is a great place for individual members, especially young professionals, to become members, because we bring together 185 institutional members. We have a great career fair that always sells out. I think any number of different people get jobs or consultancies or internships from that career fair. There are any number of other opportunities for networking, both our annual dinner, our annual conference, our monthly events, getting involved in our working groups. These are ways in which people can break into the business. It's hard to break into the development business. SID Washington provides a logical and easy way for young professionals to participate in the business of development. SID Washington is very fortunate to have an excellent team who've worked very, very hard. I'm particularly grateful to all the folks who've worked so hard to make this possible. Joe Foyer, Stacy Whittle, Jordana Frater, Manoli Strecker, Wes Negussi. I'm also very, very grateful to Kathy Morrell, who's been our conference organizer, and her partner in crime, Diane Fulton, on helping make this happen. We've had any number of different institutional member sponsors. We've had 75 financial sponsors for this, and about a dozen folks who've been participating actively on committees. We've had 2 great committee chairs, Tessie San Martin on the program side, who's the CEO of Plan USA, and also Alina Zhuskowski, who's a longtime SID Washington board member and a consultant, and has been just phenomenal on the issue of the fundraising, leading the charge on the fundraising, chairing the fundraising committee.